I'm going to talk about something that is, I don't know if it's mighty controversial, but it's about the NBA MVP, which, fuck it, it's always a controversial topic. So
Nikola
this
Jokic.
MVP race is one of the more interesting ones in recent memory. My preseason pick for MVP was Jayson Tatum, and I've rode with Jayson Tatum for the entirety of the season because he's playing incredibly well. He's averaging 38 and 5. The Celtics are the best team in the NBA, or were the best team in the NBA up until recently. But that stretch they got off to begin the season, being led by him, it was impossible not to see him as the front runner for the MVP. And then, you know, things got a little wacky. Luka's name was thrown in there. Joel Embiid. I mean, even still, Joel Embiid has a legitimate case, leading the league in scoring. Philly is like the fourth or fifth best team in the NBA, playing incredible basketball. And then, of course, we have Giannis, who will forever be present in these MVP races. But throughout it all, I feel as though people were only consistently talking about two guys, and that was Jayson Tatum and Nikola Jokic. Now, over these last couple of weeks, particularly since the start of the new year, Denver has emerged as arguably the best team in the NBA. They have the best record since January 1st. They're tied for the most wins. I think, actually, not the best record. They're tied for the best record since January 1st. They have the best net rating since January 1st as well. And Nikola Jokic is averaging a triple double on astronomical shooting efficiency. Now, the national media, I don't think enjoys Nikola Jokic for some reason, and I think it's because everyone in the national media is a fucking hater and a crybaby, and they don't like seeing household names perform well. It's the weirdest fucking thing. It's happened for as long as I've been watching sports media, for as long as I've been online. When you have a player who's been good for, 3, 4, 5 years or so. And I mean, Nikola Jokic is back to back MVP. When you have that type of player, the media in one offseason will switch from being a staunch supporter of this player to effectively advocating for their, not for like their death or anything, but advocating and treating them as if they're like Shannon Brown or like Andrea Bargnani. They're advocating for like the expedited death of their basketball career. For some reason, it's the strangest virus, and I fucking despise it. LeBron went through this, Steph went through this, Kevin Durant's been going through this, Giannis is starting to go through it a little bit, and now Nikola Jokic is going through it. So this is the long-winded way of me asking myself, do I still think that Jayson Tatum is the NBA MVP? And as of now, I'm still saying yes. Jayson Tatum is my pick for NBA MVP. However, however, I will refrain from actually picking an MVP until the final day of the regular season because this race is simply too close to call. Look at the numbers from these three guys. If we do on a per 100 possessions basis, right? You have Giannis, who is absolutely just crushing everybody. In terms of raw statistics, I think that Giannis is, I don't want to say he's the best. In terms of raw statistics, Giannis is the most dominant. This guy's averaging 30 and 12 in 32 minutes a night. Jokic, on the other hand, has the best raw numbers. He's at 25, 12, and 10, shooting 63%. And Jayson Tatum is, I would say, the best mixture of the two, of the raw numbers and also of the fucking quote unquote eye test, I guess. But Tatum is still having a remarkable season at 30 points, just shy of 9 rebounds, and just shy of 5 assists on 46% shooting, which compared to Jokic and compared to Giannis, his efficiency is nowhere near the same. But also remember that Jayson Tatum is a wing player, and his average shot distance is beyond that of Jokic and Giannis. His average shot distance is about 15 feet compared to Jokic, for example, who I think is at like 10 feet, 8 feet. So again, naturally, he's taking more threes, he's taking more mid range shots. His efficiency is not going to be the best, but still, Jayson Tatum is the best player on the best team in the NBA. However, I don't understand the just blind hatred for Nikola Jokic and like the seeming blatant disregard of the fact that he is an MVP front runner because you look at the numbers. I mean, you just like, are you, what are you seeing? I like to imagine that there are people on TV and certain folks on the internet who watch Nuggets games, but then close their eyes every time Jokic touches the ball. So they are effectively blind for 90% of Denver's offensive possessions. And then they don't see what they see in the box score. They just see 0-0-0, right? It's like, I can't see you, you can't see me type thing. But 25, 12, and 10 on 63% shooting are MVP caliber numbers. Listen, if you are an eye test Andy, if you're an eye test Twitter guy, close your eyes, shut it off, put me on mute, turn mute all the way up because I'm about to spit some shit that you do not want to hear. Win shares. Jokic has 12.2 compared to Giannis's 6.5 and Jayson Tatum's 8. Jayson Tatum has played in more games than Jokic, 4 more. You would think that he has attributed to more wins because win shares is a cumulative stat. No, when you do win shares per 48, which I think is a better metric to use because it does a game by game basis. It's an average, it's not cumulative. And when you're working with these types of players and these types of awards, you want things to be as evenly weighted as possible. Win shares per 48, Jokic is at 30, is at 0.321. Giannis is at zero point 0.2. Jayson Tatum is at 0.177, meaning that Jokic, on average, is contributing twice as much to his team's wins as Jayson Tatum. Now, do I believe that to be true? No. I think that both of these guys are largely responsible for all of their team's victories, which is why I'm not someone who goes based solely off of the analytics. But when you look at the analytics, when you also look at the fact that his box plus minus is 13.4, like Jokic has always been the he's always been a remarkable analytics guy. I don't know what it is with him, but his analytics are always just significantly better than everyone else's. But we've now reached this point in his career where his talent is undeniable, and it's been undeniable for 3 years because that's where the raw numbers have met the analytics. Now, a lot of folks are trying to, I guess, diminish Jokic's MVP chances because he has already won 2 MVPs. We saw this happen with LeBron. There was a point where LeBron should have won 5 straight MVPs. He was back to back in 2009, 2010, and then Derrick Rose won in 2011, and then he went back to back again following that. LeBron should have been a 5-time league MVP. And I think that as great as Derrick Rose was during that season and what he did at that age in that season was remarkable. But dog, you're there it's impossible to deny that the media's bias influenced that result to some degree. I don't know to what degree. I'm not saying that Derrick Rose should not have won his MVP when he did. I'm not saying he didn't have a case. I would go with LeBron. I would have voted with LeBron, but Derrick Rose had a case. But again, it gets to a point where these guys just become despised by the media, and the media uses these biases against them. We saw this in the beginning of the year when Tim McMahon was like, I don't care how great Kevin Durant plays, I'm not going to vote for him. He's not going to be an MVP to me because he demanded a trade. That's some crybaby bullshit. That is just, it is a disgusting bias to have as someone who covers the sport. Like, you're fortunate enough to cover the sport at a national level. You're lucky enough to have a position of prominence at the largest sports media organization on the planet, and you're just going to blatantly be like, oh yeah, I'm a hater and I fucking despise Kevin Durant. Like, L plus ratio, plus your hair's thinning, plus I hate you. It's stupid. And we're at that point with Nikola Jokic. And I guess I just really needed to rant about that. There was also this article published on ESPN. I don't know if I'm gonna read through the whole thing, but it was about how stars around the NBA. I mean, the title NBA stars on why Jokic's prior awards shouldn't hurt his 3P chances. He's playing like an MVP because he is. He's undeniably playing at an MVP level. It doesn't matter if he's won 2 MVPs before. If you feel that he is the MVP, but you don't want to vote for him because he's already won 2 prior awards, you shouldn't be voting. Do you care about winning the MVP? A reporter asked Nikola Jokic. He said yes. because the last 7 times I said no. Now I'm just going to change it up. The truth is, Jokic seemingly couldn't care less about the possibility of becoming just the 4th player in NBA history to become a three-peat MVP winner, joining Larry Bird, Wilt, and Bill Russell. The 2 MVPs he has already won were followed by a second-round playoff loss and a 2021 first-round loss to the eventual Golden State Warriors last season in a gentleman's sweep. If you win something if you win okay, this is Jokic talking now. If you win something collectively and something that everybody is striving to win, of course you're going to change that for any ring or any opportunity to win something big. He's talking about how despite winning MVP, both of those campaigns ended in postseason failure. This is coming from Giannis. I think you should be judged not on what you've done in the past. I think you should be judged on what you're doing that season. If you're able to win 10 MVPs in a row, win 10 MVPs in a row. I feel like Michael Jordan was one of the best players to ever play this game, and he was always great, but he only won 5 MVPs out of 15 years he played. Or LeBron, who has won 4 MVPs out of 20 years. Again, like this is the argument that we're going to have forever. When you are the best player in the league, as Michael Jordan was, as LeBron James was, you could realistically win MVP every season. I mean, even this year, like LeBron is still playing at an MVP level, and you could make the case for him. I don't think it's that solid, but the case is still there. We're reaching that point with Jokic. We've reached that point with Giannis already. We're gonna reach that point with Jayson Tatum, with Luka Doncic. Again, it's a very hard decision to make, but when you consider Jokic's numbers, when you consider like the narrative around him, and when you consider how good the team is, there is no way he should not be considered for the MVP. Let's go on. You hear sometimes voter fatigue, voting for the same guy year after year, said James last Thursday. But at the end of the day, if he's the MVP and he's playing like the MVP, then he should get it year after year. I mean, even Stephen A. said that Jokic is the MVP frontrunner, not Joel Embiid. It's a very rare Stephen A. It's a really rare good take from Stephen A. Smith. I wouldn't say if he's the MVP frontrunner. I would say that he is a MVP frontrunner largely because I think that it's that I don't see there being a front runner right now. I see there being a race between Jokic and Jayson Tatum. Those are the two guys for me. NBA awards are voted on a panel of around 100 media members who cover the league. If the straw poll of prospective ballot fillers conducted by ESPN's Tim Bontemps is any indicator, voters aren't tired of Jokic's story and will vote for him again. Yes, there was a midseason report or something, midseason survey where people were picking Jokic as the league MVP. It's because he's playing at a fucking MVP level. This is now Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, it's something that you obviously want to win the award for sure, but I can't lie. I don't know if you all have been watching what Jokic is doing. It's fucking outrageous. I definitely feel like I'm in that conversation. I love I love the unabashed confidence of professional athletes. It is awesome. This is the one thing I love about pro sports. I love how good everybody thinks they are. And Donovan Mitchell earned the right he earned the right to say this statement. Like this is not a ridiculous statement by any means. I'm just saying that there is at least one degree of separation between Donovan Mitchell and Nikola Jokic. But credit to him for, I mean, yeah, he dropped his name in that conversation as well. It's a joke, it's a meme, it's haha, it's funny, it's good natured. But I think he knows as well. I mean, he says it. He's otherworldly. He's been doing it at a different level. Like everyone knows. Donovan Mitchell also mentioned Jayson Tatum, Luka Doncic, and Joel Embiid, who he puts neck and neck with Jokic. Suns forward Kevin Durant says Jokic's case is self-explanatory. Aren't they number one in the West? He's playing like an MVP. However, Durant also noted that there is a worthy crowd of candidates. I feel like 7 or 8 dudes could get it, so it's like at this point you could close your eyes and pick any one of these dudes and they become MVP. It's based off really who you like as a person. I think that plays a huge factor in it. I think that naturally NBA players are going to recognize that the media are biased either for or against them. And I mean, Kevin Durant knows that there are media members who are biased against him. He's been on the internet long enough. He's been in the league long enough. He knows better. He's not jaded. He doesn't think that, the media are this perfect set of people who always vote correctly or, he recognizes the human nature in award voting. But again, like there's a difference between picking Joel Embiid over Nikola Jokic and doing it off of the merit that Joel Embiid it has garnered. And then also just like saying I'm not going to vote Jokic because voter fatigue. Like that's just disingenuous to him. Winning, numbers, moments, availability, just how valuable you are to your team, said Jayson Tatum. I think that's probably what most people think of to some degree, but for me, I think those would be the main points I would look for at who's the MVP. Winning, numbers, the narrative plays a huge role as well. I'm more in this line of thinking as well, but most of the top guys in the NBA recognize this. The dudes who are in the MVP conversation, they know what they're doing. They know what it takes to even be in this conversation. Luka says the same thing. I mean, everything. What you did to make the team better, so really everything. And again, you could make the case for someone like Luka, where this guy's averaging like 30, 10, and 9. And if he were not there, the Dallas Mavericks would be the Houston Rockets 2.0. So that is, again, in a case that some people also do for MVP. I'm not really one to, play into that argument of it's like, oh, if you take player X off of this team, and put them on the other team, Team X is significantly better than Team Y. I think that's too imaginative. I think that you're also just kind of like deflecting from the main point because that's not what's going on. You have to analyze the context of the current situation. But yeah, as I already mentioned at the beginning of the segment, I'm still, I'm not off the Tatum bandwagon quite yet. Jokic has crept up more and more, especially with how hot Denver's been over the last couple of months. As I already mentioned as well, I will refrain from picking an MVP candidate until the end of the season. I really do think that the NBA should look to include the postseason in the MVP conversation as well, because that would alter the field quite a bit. Or maybe not until like the end of the postseason, but maybe before the finals, I think. There is so much that goes into a 7-game series. Like if Jokic loses in the conference finals to a team like Phoenix, for example, are you just gonna automatically not give him the award because he didn't go to and win the finals? Like, would you not give Jokic the award because he lost to the Phoenix Suns? Again, I think it's just something for the NBA to consider. But all of you, let me go full screen for this. All of you goofy goobers, all of you silly billies, all of you silly geese, who are looking at Nikola Jokic, and you're like,
Nah, dog. I don't want to give him the MVP because I don't fuck with his vibes.
you're stupid.